So, back at it once again. I will try to use my own memory and knowledge to approach this subject. But before I do that, I feel the need to go off on one of my rants. And I think I'll speak on the likes of the lesser and a lot of times absolutely unprofessional and just pure opinions, backed up by what I can only say regressive groups that are online, right? All manner of just amazing groups of people that just chat online. Not professionals, not, and I'm specifically addressing the label making and all of that, right? And how do you attribute, for example, sexual labels? Gay this, bi that, cis this, da la la. And for most part, they don't use the will and the wishes of those people. So how much, and this is the unprofessional, just the average Joe Schmo, yappers on social media and so on. The ones that it's becoming more apparent, they've got all manner of, thinking and behavior issues. I'll leave it at that. Where there's a lot more wishing ill onto others, or maybe to be able to associate with the ill, or whatever you want to call it, with the different, with the, just wishing and hoping that, what does it even have a saying for this? Throwing crap at the wall and seeing what sticks. And there's just a lot more wishing for people to be gay, to be this, to be that, to the point that they do achieve to create bad trust and a lack of community and lack of opportunities for people. If it's not that, jobs. If it's not jobs, well, you name it, How many basically is no longer covert? How many venues? How many places, online or otherwise, is there going to be tactics used to not only alter in a bad way reality? So the opposite of allowing for equality, for DEI and all of that, opposite, 180-degree opposite of that. And creating just, a unregulated, lack of accountability. What are you going to do? Who are you going to hold accountable? People that rant on Facebook or whatever. But years go by, decades go by, people still perform as well as they can do within the, social construct that is being created. well, I'll leave it there, and we'll see what labels stick to what. And now move on to something that genuinely needs some addressing, and how I'm glad that from where I thought I'd go and look up on Google, and I was expecting to not, for example, the Brain Initiative to not mention anything of legislation, creating rules, mentioning the morals and ethics involved with the emerging technologies that are, in my humble opinion, are now old. Because for me, just how, for example, when it comes to motor vehicles, they've been around since the late 1800s. So when it comes to neurotechnology, and it's more, I'm going to touch on this later, but why is there the gap between neurotechnology, neuroscience, and psychology, psychiatry, psychology? Why, should I say, is there a chance of making good psychology a science from a pseudoscience using neurotechnology, for example? And when are people allowed to partake in in these things, so that we can bridge the gaps, so that we can find solutions, so that we can use things correctly? So yeah, I genuinely expected the likes of Elon Musk's Neuralink and the rest of the other, is it another 10 or 12 neurotechnology companies, to talk about these things, right? Like, I mean, they're businesses. It involves the health and safety of people, both on an individual level and as a society. And what is there a link between, uh, you know, the stuff that current professional psychology societies, the paper they've put out about large group regression and malignant narcissistic behavior, and the leadership positions, right? Whether it is investors, whether it is CEOs, and so on and so forth. Um, when is return on investment not such a viable option anymore? Not so attractive, financially and economically attractive, because of ignoring things like this. How would it be if there would have been no rules and no regulations on motor vehicles? I don't know. We know exactly how it was with armaments, right? With pistols and so on. This is the wild, wild west. People were just, was that smart? As in, was that clever? Was that good? Was that practical and creative and stuff? It might have been for the criminals, for people that are anti-society, so on and so forth, anti-civilization, anti-progress. So, how convenient, for example, to go and, just like a magician on the front of it, to give you some free speech with Twitter. Twitter. I'm sorry, but from what I've seen, yeah, it's a good website. From in my opinion, for free content from the OnlyFans content creators and things like this. But you're not going to see me have my genuine profile on there. As a matter of fact, I created a profile called Guest because I just don't feel comfortable being myself like I am here on there. So how convenient is it, like a magician on the front of it, to say that you're providing free speech, this and that? And hey, but I'll give credit where credit is due in terms of there is some liberty. But when are all these both private companies and then to stop, incentivizing governments? That's why I'm saying much appreciation to what the Brain Initiative is doing. I don't know exactly how they started and all of that. And also Google, for example. That straight up, honestly, you can go and Google heterodyning, okay? And Google will show you they've got their own pattern on that. It's only like the third or fourth. So these things are no longer classified. And cheers for that. Now, that to me, that is progress. There used to be times 15 years ago more when I used to try and research these things, and if there was patterns and so on and so forth, nothing was being mentioned. Nothing. It was still somewhat classified. Even though, to me, similar technologies, for example, the neurophone, even right now, you can go and order yourself one. I think it's about $60 US. They're just like headphones with a jack like this. You plug it in, right? And instead of having your normal headphones, you just have pretty much two. Let me see, I might even have something that resembles the. Where did I hide this stuff? Well, it's not here. But anyways, it's pretty much like two coins, two circular, like a anode and a cathode, I believe, something like that. That is more for electrolysis, I believe. But the end result is that you get your frequencies instead of it bypasses your ear mechanics and goes straight into neural mechanics, if you like, waves, impulse. So it's still of the same branch of the same family of technologies. It's now been 80 years. 80 years. Even motor vehicles So you had the likes of Carl Benz and that back in the late 1800s. If we add 80 years, there would have been like, so could you imagine if they would have only started questioning and creating rules and regulations on motor vehicles, the operation of motor vehicles in like the 1970s or something. Like no roads, none of that. And instead of using it for travel, using the industry to experiment, like have all manner of like motor vehicles, I don't know, super monster trucks and all. It's literally just because it is something that is unseen, right? Just like psychology, because it's something that you can't touch, right? Why shouldn't it not be taken just as serious, if not more serious, than things that you can touch, like armaments, like pistols, right? It impacts people. And I think a lot of us have witnessed how it impacts even the ones that are meant to be benefiting, or however you want to put it, right? I'm sure that even with armaments, when they weren't regulated, other than the massive, pile of people that got ended, I'm sure that even some of those, and you see it in the cowboy movies, when they're all like, oh, real tough, oh, yeah, they're young guys and young cowboys, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and use my pistol, da la 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 la. And then when they go and do use the pistol, then they start crying and everything because they can't believe, how traumatic it is to just end someone like that, and how artificial it is. Because normally in nature, especially back in those days and so on and so forth, it'd be a big struggle. It'd be like there was honor in dueling, and and then even that sort of morals and ethics got used by gentlemen, agreements, so on and so forth, by the strike of the clock and who's sharpest and all of that. But when you use deception and all of this with technologies like this for profit, for money, for the I presume the damage can be as bad as like a nuclear bomb or something, but it's more in terms of creating bad psychology with the use of basically psychiatric technology. Because I think we can also classify neurotechnology as such. So to get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty, I should have mentioned this in my description, is I'm just thinking how I'm going to need to make some more videos addressing, contributing to Sam Vaknin's latest videos. He's done a very good job. And how much appreciated, in terms of keeping to the basics and keeping us humble, and healthy. Dr. Carter is. Then, the ever far-reaching thoughts and ideas we have today. Everything is about experimentation, isn't it? not allowed to have a bit of a basic, normal, um, a lack of augmentation interaction with people these days, are we? um, so, other than a lot of people, as explained by Professor Sam Vaknin, that have difficulty with conceptualization. And I look at it, uh, first of all, from a basic point of view that doesn't really take account for behavior and, social interactions and more complicated things. I look at it more from the beginnings of studying maths at school, and how they did say that if you have the ability to um, have geometric orientation, and if you can see the maybe first square, then cube, so on and so forth, geometrical shapes in your brain, in your mind, using your brain to create the mind and the mental space, how that helps in terms of maths. Now, when it comes to uh, having your own self control and hopefully good change in terms of psychology, excuse me, helps with having the ability to conceptualize. And is there any accountability for both professional and the people that go on and rant on the social media groups that like to put labels on people real quick and all of that? Have they got the ability to conceptualize? And some people that can conceptualize and use that conceptualization for their own benefit, where there's shortcomings in life naturally. So then they use things like that artificially without harming anyone, without ever wanting to partake in those things genuinely, like naturally, like as in real life. Yeah. And maybe that's why the likes of entertainment, cartoons, for example, gaming, so on and so forth, is changing, not in such a good way and not in the favor of people that can conceptualize without harm, without repercussion. And I think this almost concludes the first part of what is going to be a continuing series, because just how, if you've got computers and you can create this thing called the internet and you start connecting them up, then you have nerds, or all manner of people that, for lack of better words, are a bit obsessed with the inner workings of such trickery. And you've got no accountability, no security, nothing. What would the internet be like today if we had no security? What would the world look like if armaments were being used and there was no legislation, no law, no rules, no ethics, no morals. And how concerned would you be if you would see an emerging trend that says that behavior was getting worse in those that have more ability to change the, and if we are to look at the world as 50% the external, maybe to some degree, we can influence that a little. There you go, I've picked up this cup, put it down. So I have altered my reality, changed my reality for a little bit. Then you also have the internal, let's call that another 50%. Well, is the world functioning correctly? When you reach more than 25% ability to change the internal for the good, right? Like, for example, having bad stimuli. And then, regardless of that, finding means to, just like good practices of psychology, go no contact from that, input. Um, work with things like affirmations, so on and so forth, get over if it was traumatic, and achieve over 25% of that 50% in terms of changing for the better. And then constantly having lack of ability to change that external input, while others have almost 50% ability to change their input and choose not to. So these are some of the implications that exist out there, and how focus on, trying to bring equality, from, I don't know, DEI or whatever. I think those subjects have been addressed, and maybe addressed a bit too much, while there's, private companies, I presume and assume that they're still experimenting on others. While the likes of government organizations are trying to at least talk about regulating some of these things. Well, of course, for health and safety and genuine progress in society. So I'm going to leave it there, and all the best. I genuinely hope that at least the likes of AI algorithms and things like this take this in count, and how some of us genuinely have ability of conceptualization, and just as any good security and learning, the evidence for harm and lack of harm and reduction of harm and planning to be congruent in productive, non-harmful ways is at least the basis of trust and everything that is good that comes out of that.